We want to talk tech, and we had Tesla today and IBM, and more to come. Intel later, the quantum stocks were jumping, and we always want to know all things Mag 7 because we have 4 of those companies next week. Cory Johnson, we have a big lineup for you. Chief Market Strategist.
Let's do it all.
Good to see you. So let's talk about what do you think, Cory, when you look here at the big picture? Tell me more about how you feel about tech right now.
So technology is driving, I cover technology, right? So I'm always focused on technology, but it really is driving the broader market right now and even the broader economy. We even hear that from Jerome Powell, that AI capital expenditures are the things that are driving, that are working so well in our economy. So many other things are not working well in our economy, but spending on AI is. And that's been the big tech companies have been both driving that in some cases, and been, if you want to look at, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, Google, right? Google is my translation to how old I am because I remember when it was just called Google. But on the other hand, you've got companies like NVIDIA that are benefiting from that spending. Oracle, a company I've talked about a lot. I spent a good part of last week at Oracle AI World in Las Vegas and heard a lot about where that spending is going and what they're doing there. And so you see the companies that are both benefiting from it and the companies that are spending the money on it. And it tends to cloud our view, our ability to see beyond that and to look at the rest of the markets and the rest of the economy because that one sector is doing so well.
So let's go through it a little bit. Just like, quickly, because I did mention IBM and Tesla. Do you like either of those or not so much? If not so much, we go to the next.
So I covered the earnings for both yesterday. We did it on our Drill Down podcast, and I, of course, write research reports and all that stuff and model out the companies. Tesla we'll leave that for a second. We'll start with IBM. So IBM put up a pretty good quarter. I know the stock's selling off today, but all 3 of their major divisions in software, their infrastructure business is doing really well, and their consulting business is, back from the dead, only 3% year-over-year growth, but that's better than what they'd put up at this time a year ago. So it was a kind of across-the-board decent results and lots of free cash flow, which, of course, is the ultimate measure of success for that business. And the stock is up. It's done about 50% better than the S&P 500 of the last year. Now, Tesla, the stock's up over 100% in the last year. The stock traded down on the bad net profit margins and everything else in the after hours, and yet today it's off to the races. And it's more than doubled in the last year. Some say that the definition of a bubble is anything that's doubled in a year. I don't know if I subscribe to that, but you saw the sell-off in gold when you got to that point. You see this sell-off in Tesla. You don't see a sell-off there. It doesn't really trade like a stock. It trades like a fan club. So I refuse to analyze Tesla as if the stock price reflects the value of the business, because it doesn't trade on the value of the business. It trades on hopes and prayers and imagination. And those have gone in kind of in one direction for a long time. Someday they'll go in another direction, and maybe those will be tied to value. Maybe they won't, but certainly doesn't trade that way these days.
Look, I saw JP Morgan underweight, 150 target. Cantor Fitzgerald overweight, 510 target. So there's your point. Cantor's looking at Tesla, not just for cars, but for energy, for the Optimus bots, full self-driving, robo-taxis, cybercabs, etc.
Think of all these things.
So
things that they don't sell.
Okay.
You're listing all these things. Some of the things they don't even make right now and available for sale. It's valued on the hope of these things that may come someday. And all the analyst calls, all the analyst notes, they say, you can't believe Elon's dates. You can't believe some of the things he says. He talks about full self-driving. They don't have full self-driving. It doesn't exist. And yet the analysts, when they want to recommend the stock, talk about these things that don't exist. So it's pretty hard to do fundamental valuation analysis when people are citing things that don't exist and where a marketplace isn't there and a product isn't even there to evaluate.
You want to get to quantum computing stocks, which are jumping today with the possible investment from the White House. Yeah. However, we're going to hear from more Mag 7 names next week. I think we have Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, Apple, maybe. Tell me these names that you're watching. I'm sure you have something to say about each of them. But could you pick 1 or 2 to really highlight whether they're going to be incredible winner or you really want to know something? Tell me.
Well, so I think, Apple's results are pretty well telegraphed at this point. I'm really curious about what's happening with advertising spending, right? We think about technology in so many ways, but when it comes to Meta and to Alphabet, those businesses are fundamentally driven on advertising spending. And Don Logan of Time Incorporated told me many, many decades ago that advertising is the canary in the coal mine for the economy. It is the very first thing to go because it's the easiest thing for companies to cut when they're facing uncertainty. And so I really pay careful attention to these two dominant advertising-driven businesses of Meta and Alphabet. It's not the sexy technology and semiconductor story that NVIDIA might be, the only one of the Mag 7 we will not have heard from come a week from Friday. But we will have heard from all the rest of the Mag 7. We'll get a sense of what's going on with technology capital expenditures, and I know that that will be the focus of so many. But I do think it's important in this moment when we have a really bifurcated economy, where the economy is doing so well for some people and so poorly for other people, that advertising is going to be a thing to keep an eye on, and we'll get a lot of information about that next week.
Yeah, and look, sometimes you can look to Snapchat or Pinterest and just get a vibe, but that doesn't necessarily mean if one's not doing well that the other one doesn't do well. It's how the ad spend is allocated too. And then the CapEx overall, the AI CapEx spend, we've gotten some really big numbers in the billions, double-digit billions from these Mag 7 names. Are you expecting something similar, less, or more?
Even bigger, hundreds of billions. Oracle put out a number when I was at this conference last week of over $1 trillion in spending for their data centers. So these are kind of amazing numbers, and it's going to have to come from somewhere besides OpenAI if it's going to happen. So, those CapEx numbers might go up. If they don't keep going up, it's going to be a problem for the companies supplying to those sectors, whether it's Oracle or NVIDIA or any of the other companies that are all rising with this AI tide.
Yeah, and look, this week, today we saw quantum computing up 12%, D-Wave up 19%, Rigetti was up 12%. You talked about IBM having a quantum angle also. Are these good investments? What are we thinking about this group?
So these are other businesses that aren't businesses yet. They are science projects trading on hope. And if you were a true believer in quantum, maybe you'd also want to be participating in what's going to happen for cybersecurity companies and other things that in an age of quantum will suddenly have this incredible new value. But I think that some of these things are going to have some interesting science projects. Some of these are going to be abject and total failures, and surely there will be fraud amongst them. But I'm not referring to any of these specific names that you've mentioned. But these are the areas of excitement where someone like me who can be more skeptical might be looking for fakes and frauds and failing businesses. And we'll get some of those in the world of quantum too. And if you're not prepared to do the work to figure out which is which, you might best stay away.
Yeah, and look, President Trump will be speaking, what I understand, at 3 p.m. from the White House. And so I'll see what that's about. So we got to tune in for that as well. All right. Well, thank you, Cory Johnson.
Thank you.